What's up, everybody? It's Dakota, and today we're going to talk some Magic controversy because the community can't go longer than a day without having something to be angry about. Even though this one is kind of important, it's something that has kind of been something that we've had for a while, but now can't. And as you can probably read from me just talking over what I have pulled up on screen right now, Frank Karsten, who is basically a super smart man, he has like a doctorate in math. There's a lot of like good articles that he writes about like mana bases and magic and things like that, which you can look up and easily find out like if you're a brewer or anything like that. Frank Carson overall, like anytime like I've seen him or that I've uh, had like he's been on like coverage or anything like that, like way back when, he's always seemed like a really pleasant person, a really nice guy. So the fact that it seems like somebody has made the decision that they will not be posting all the GP lists or provide GP win rate analysis uh, for the foreseeable future. Now, whenever that might change, who knows, or if it will ever change. But like as you can kind of see here, Bob Huang, uh, they only really posted the top 8 deck lists for the GP like I think the same day, like Sunday or like Monday, and then like they've always like posted I think like top 16 or maybe even top 32. But now they won't be posting all the deck lists and the win rates for certain archetypes and decks from the event. So basically, real quick, I'm gonna talk about like why is this important? Why is it a big deal to like not really the more casual player? I don't think it's really important, but more to like the people that play in like these sort of events, the people that like want to go out and grind tournaments that are like uh, deck builders who are just like want to try to get ideas and things like that. This just restricts the amount of data that we as players get and data that should be available to us as players. So like, even though it might not seem relevant that like at 1,000 plus person GP that we can only see like 60 decks or 30 decks from the event, but like thinking how crazy that is, like a thousand. If you can see 100 of like 1,000 decks, that you're only seeing like 10% of what was going on at the event, and then you cut that in half, you're only getting like 5% of the decks, maybe instead of just getting all of it, especially when someone's willing to provide all of it. The win rates of like certain decks also kind of give us like a more educated guess or view really on like what is exactly going on in the meta. Like does Urza feel like it's actually winning all the time, or is it just we see it and like when we see it it wins because it has a really good matchup against whatever it's playing against versus like is it actually dominant. We've seen this a lot from like old standard formats, from modern formats, basically any format that has had like any sort of like GP coverage or anything like that. We're able to get like the win rates, see exactly like okay, well, what was the record of Death Shadow versus Tron? What was the record of Thopter Sword combo versus the field, and things like that. And that kind of helps you to figure out and build decks in a certain way and kind of tune them to combat the meta that has been created. And then that's how we get change in metas. That's how we get shifts. That's why we in modern for a while there, like there would be the best deck in the format, and then like a month later there would be a new best deck in the format, or there would be another deck that is viable because it's able to combat the top strategies in the format. And while eventually players are going to figure out this information or somehow get this information, whatever, the fact that it's readily available and like anybody who wants to see it can like go to channelfireball.com or wherever. They can just search up tournament results from GP Columbus or GP Phoenix and like get the entirety of like the win rate analysis and like all the deck lists and things like that, and just be able to scour over tons and tons of information. And the fact that it should be just made available to those people if they want it, I think that should be something that's continued rather than discontinuing it. um, I've seen from like other places like I guess Reddit, some like Reddit threads, things like that. People saying that like it's a Wizards decision that they don't want formats to be solved nearly as fast, so they think like restricting like data to only like what comes out at the top is what's going to really make it uh, make it better for players, and essentially just like make the formats unsolved for longer. And I think it's in its own debate, whether a solved format is a good format, whether, things like that. Like, I'm personally in the wagon of a solved format is a good one, because we can eventually just either get things, or like we start to learn, like, all right, well, this is better than what this is. Things get more optimized, and then you just see like games really come down to a lot of like skill and just kind of like a little bit of luck. But you see like uh, the variance kind of taken out of things, like, and eventually like over time, while like when you have as much information, you don't have to do as much personal work. Like, other people are doing the work, and we all work together to come to a conclusion, rather than just an even smaller group of people coming to that conclusion, when they're the ones that either have that data readily available to them, or they're just able to find it better than you are. So overall, I think this is a pretty bad thing to have happen, honestly. Um, while it doesn't necessarily affect me, because I don't get to play in a lot of GPs and things like that, it's definitely something I like to look at, and I like to kind of break down and make mental notes of, because it just is something that you should be willing to take in, especially if you're looking at becoming a competitive player. And that's kind of it, for all this. It's something I wanted to talk about, because I think it's important that people know that stuff like this is happening. And if you really wanted to stop or anything like that, obviously it's like getting a hold of like Wizards, any, uh, not Channel Fireball, because it even says here, like Frank Karsten says, it wasn't Channel Fireball's call to stop the publishing all GP deck lists and providing the win rate analysis. Um, but really just contacting anybody that's involved with the game and everything, and essentially putting pressure on them to bring this back, because again, I think it's something super important that really we should all like try to fight for to get back. So that's gonna do it for me. This video is pretty quick. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did like it and you want to see more stuff like this, kind of going over like uh, some more controversial things, like hot topics, debates, whatever, feel free to like the video, to put it simply, because then I'll come out with more stuff like this, or comment stuff that's like going on that you want me to talk about, things like that. Be sure to subscribe to the channel. I do tons of like deck techs, possibly going over stuff like this, and some more like article like type stuff coming in the near future. I appreciate y'all. Hope y'all enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one.